Okay, we are now live now. Hello, everyone. Very good afternoon to you from Bremen in Germany. It's nice weather today. Today we're going to be talking about adaptation and asset building. If you joined our podcast last week, we talked about the four different points or four important stages or points in migration: access, arrival, adaptation, and asset building. Today we're going to be talking about the two last part of it, which is adaptation and asset building. And as always, I have my co-host who is joining us from Nigeria. We have a very special guest who's always joining us from Italy. And today, very importantly, we have a professional wealth advisor who is based in Germany and is also going to be giving us some part of, high experience and key points when it comes to asset building abroad. So, this podcast, as always, is brought to you by Settling, the platform that we're building to make migration easy, transparent, and sustainable for people. So, before I proceed, I'll my co-host from Nigeria, I'll say a few words, and then our special guest will also briefly introduce themselves, and we dive into the key topic for today. Michael, over to you.
Yeah, my name is Michael, and so glad to have Lola join us today. As you know, like you said the other time last weekend, migration is not relocation, and you have to take it seriously. It has to be a structured arrangement. So I'll be listening to the expert today, Lola, and it should be a very good learning period for all of us. Thank you so much. Over to you, Lola.
Hi everyone. So my name is Omolola and I've been in Germany now for close to 4 years. I work as a financial advisor with Deutsche Vermögensberatung, which is DVG for short. And basically what we do is to work with migrant foreigners, residents, residents here in Germany, and to help them to be able to understand the German financial landscape and to be able to build a future that is sustainable and truly build wealth for themselves. And I'm so glad to be here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I guess I have to introduce myself too. Yeah, my name is DK Buka. I am a master student at the University of Salerno, Italy. So I am joining the program to also, give my own quota and also learn from the special guests. I guess there's a lot to come from the other end than from this end anyway. Hey, I've been in Italy for about a year and 6 months now. So we are still coming and we are hoping to adapt and then to start building assets. So hopefully I'll be learning more as well from my end.
All right, great stuff. Okay, so just a quick recap. Migration is not simple relocation, and especially when most people who migrate, to a large extent, they're migrating permanently. Although from the start, you don't know this because there's just a few people that would migrate and say, I'm migrating permanently. But in practice, that's really what happens because before you know it, you're in that new location, you're settled, you're married, you're having children, and the rest is history, and you're having your generations over there. And that's why the topic of adaptation and asset building becomes important because they actually go hand in hand. How can you build assets in a place that you're not well adapted to? We couldn't, of course, cover everything in this session, but at least we are hoping that some of the key points that we're going to talk about today would open your eyes to what it really means to build, to adapt, and to build assets. Um, but before I proceed, I would like to hear from our special guest here, Lola, today. What comes to mind when you hear adaptation and asset building abroad? And what have you seen so far, given your experience living in Germany and now working as a professional wealth advisor in Germany?
Thank you, Michael. I've noticed here that for many migrants, moving to Germany comes with bigger dreams, having bigger dreams, getting better opportunities, stability, progress, and hope of building a future. But the reality is that many people arrive here and they focus only on surviving. like paying rent, sending money home, sorting out documents, finding work, adjusting to a new system. And while all of that is important, the true financial progress begins when you move from just earning money to building assets. Yeah. And so building assets in Germany as a migrant starts with understanding the system, because Germany has many structures that can support financial growth, but many migrants are simply not aware of them. There are government incentives, there are tax advantages, saving opportunities, pensions, products, real estate pathways that people can use wisely. But unfortunately, many migrants, they work hard for years without fully benefiting from what is available, to them. And it is not because they are lazy, but because nobody explains the system clearly. And so this is the first step to building assets. That is financial awareness. And this is why we, as financial advisors, like myself, this is what we take so personal to try to enlighten the people, our people, migrants, foreigners, for them to really understand their income, their expenses, their responsibilities, their goals, and to be able to know how they can benefit from the government, how they can use the various subsidies that we have, and how they can truly build wealth for themselves here in Germany. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe before I add anything, would Ebuka or Michael, would you guys like to add something to that or ask any follow-up question before I proceed?
Yes, I think it's very important because adaptation also means understanding your environment. And if you don't understand your environment, how can you become aware of the different opportunities that exist? So, and if you come into Germany or Europe, and the first thing that's on your mind, you're overbothered about how to hit the ground running, how to start making money to send back home, thinking of all the problems back home, you're getting calls and all that. It's not structured in the sense that when I come in, I have to also first adapt. I have to first get to know places, get to know the opportunities, get to know my boundaries and all of these things before I start doing anything. So it's not programmed, and you just hit the ground and it becomes more like a crash program, and before you know, your movement to abroad is begins to look more like a chaotic. And so this is why this adaptation becomes very important. Understanding what exists, like Lola rightly said, what are the opportunities, how do you navigate the systems, I mean, and all of this. So it's very important, and it makes a lot of sense to me, if I must say. Yeah.
Yeah, from my own end as well, I agree with Lola and Cho Michael. Uh, Adaptation is like, adjusting to new environment, adjusting to new working system, new educational system. But as Lola said, also, it's also a phase which is really, really important as well. You have to understand the culture, the language, you have to understand the environment, the working system, how things are being done. And then you also need to build networks, you need to build social relationships with people. And then these are just the first steps, and then which can lead you to asset building. So I believe that this is really, really important. And from the topic, you see that adaptation comes first. So you have to be adapted to the system, to the environment, to the language, build social networks, build social relationships with people, and then you start thinking of how to improve that network and that relationship, and that's where your asset building starts from.
100%, 100%. Now we're going to get practical on how can you adapt and then how that connects to building assets. That would be the next steps. And we're going to get really practical here. We will share perspective from what we know and see living here in Germany so that all our German audience or people watching us from Germany or that hope to come to Germany would learn. And we would also love to hear from your side as well, Ibuka, what you have seen so far in Italy, with the short time you've spent there, what you've seen so far, what you've observed, and how one can go from adaptation to building assets. But before we get into that, I'd like to encourage everyone who is watching this right now. The Settling mobile app is already ready. It's not ready, it's out there actually. It's been launched. We currently have the Android version, and everything which we're talking about here, we've built the platform for you that you can begin to take the steps. Because again, as you can imagine, you cannot just jump straight to adaptation or building assets. You need to have first the access. You need to arrive before everything else would follow. And Settling is the platform that is making that pathway um, transparent, sustainable for you, and very importantly, connecting, helping you to make meaningful connections. So if you are not unsettling, we encourage you to sign up. If you're using Android phone or Android device, you can download the app by scanning the QR code right there. So, adaptation. What does it actually mean to adapt? I would start for us with giving a few pointers. Of course, we couldn't exhaust everything here, but in my opinion, and honestly speaking, that has really affected my quality of life in Germany in a very positive way. Before I came to Germany, I would hear stuff about the country, a lot of things. But one thing that you have to understand is the experience of everybody is always, in most cases, a reflection of who they are. And what that
Mm,
means is you don't have to position someone's experience that that's what you're going to face. Come with an open mind. And I think that really helped me. When I came to Germany, I got to understand that yo, this world is really big. It's big and small at the same time because what you know and think is the way of life where you come from may not necessarily be in another place. And you couldn't just come and
mhm,
start judging or complaining, but you should come with an open mind to understand the system and be ready to learn and adapt. And adaptation is progressive, but it can only happen if you have an open mind and if you are ready to embrace the system where you are. And that can also only happen when you're getting practical in your day-to-day activities, lifestyle. And I could not overemphasize the importance or the relevance of language in the place where you live. So these would be the few points for me to just drop. And then I would like also Lola to share from her point of view, what does adaptation mean for her and how does she see that? And what would be like the steps to recommend to someone who is coming to Germany or moving abroad on how they can begin to adapt to their new location?
Okay, thank you so much, Michael. Okay, so I think for someone coming in new to Germany, the first step is what you've mentioned, which is learning the language. It cannot be overemphasized. That is so very important. But coming from the angle of what I do, that is as a financial advisor. So what I'm going to say is when you get into Germany, no matter what happens, you need to learn how to be disciplined when it comes to saving. Yeah, I think that is also very, very important because saving may look small in the beginning, but they are foundation for bigger opportunities. Talking about asset building, you start small, right? You can start small, and you may not start with a large amount, but consistency matters more than size at first. And regular savings can become the seed for investment. It can become the seed for emergency security, business plans, or even a future property purchase. Yeah, and so it is very important for you to be disciplined, and you should even have this mindset of you're not going to use all your ten fingers to how do they say it to feed. You're not going to use all your 10 fingers to feed, yeah. And so you have to take note of this. Sorry for the distraction. And then yeah, and another step that is very important that you need to take note of is that if you're coming into Germany, you have to take advantage of financial opportunities here. And how can you get that? Is that you need to go for events, you need to, listen to podcasts, like this, gather information on how you can be able to, access financial opportunities there. And this includes understanding government benefits, employer supported savings, pension structures, and other support systems that can help you grow financially. And many people miss this opportunity simply because they do not ask questions or they do not seek guidance. And so this is the one thing you should be so much keen to do. To ask questions, to try to relate with people, try to make friends, network, like attend events, so you can be able to know about all these opportunities. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is, investing for the future. Leaving all
mm,
your money idle may feel safe, but over time, while wise investing is what helps money grow. So this doesn't mean that taking reckless risk. It means understanding suitable options, like having a plan and building gradually. So wealth is often built step by step, not overnight. So anyone that is coming here should also be thinking of investment. You should have some form of investment here before you think of investment back home. I don't want to argue that, but I think it's very, very important, Yeah, before you start building all the properties in the world back home, I think you should have some form of investment here too. First, yeah. I will stop there. Yeah.
All right. Just to add to that very quickly before I go over to the speakers, one thing I want to really connect that with when it comes to in practice is it's really simple. It's all about the kind of people you mingle with, the people you expose
Hmm.
yourself with, the people you connect with, your network, really. I think
Yeah.
it's very common to hear the say, your network determines your net worth. And it's really, that's like as simple as explanation can go. Who are the people that you admire? Who are the people doing the things that you would like to do or the position you see yourself to be in the future? And begin to align and adapt yourself to them. It's as simple as that. And what that means in practice is how are you spending your day? Where are you going to? And the interesting thing is, most of this information you can get them 100% free of charge. So the question always is, who and where are you spending your time with? And how are you going about your day-to-day activities? Are you just keeping yourself to people of the same community, or are you trying to network with the broader community to learn from other people? Because if you would spend time to people that are more or less like you, then that's as far as everything that you're going to learn and know would go. So maybe I'll go over to Ibuka now to give us his perspective from Italy, what he has learned so far, and then how exactly is the landscape over there, and what would be the key things that people who are moving to Italy should pay attention to.
Yeah, exactly. Just like we have said here before, the four phases of moving abroad, which the last one we talked about was adaptation, and now we try to connect it to asset building. Now, adaptation is not easy. It comes with a lot of challenges. There's going to be language barrier. There's going to be cultural differences. There's going to be homesickness. There's going to be a lot of financial pressure, and there's going to be, difficulty in finding jobs in the new environment. So before you adapt, you're going to go through these phases. You're going to go through these struggles, these challenges. But then, just like Mike has said, you need to be open-minded. You need to have the right connection. You need to have the right social relationships with people. Now, talking about the language, just like Lola said, you cannot go past that. You cannot maneuver your way through that one. You have to know the language. I give you an experience. I was speaking to one of my friends, I think on Thursday, and we're talking about, because I take language classes here as well to learn the language. So we're talking about someone who learns the language, and probably he attend classes but don't understand the language, and then he's able to pass the exams just to get the certificate. But then you cannot speak the language. It's as much as you not even attending the classes, because the real thing is you going out there connecting to people. How do you relate to people if you cannot even speak it? So you cannot maneuver your way around these things. First of all, you have to be open-minded to learn the language, be able to speak it. I know there's going to be a bit of difficulty, because if you are in Italy and you don't intend to settle in Italy, or maybe build your wealth in Italy, you would like to move up to Germany, you want to move up to Switzerland, you want to move up to another country, then it means that you're not so focused on the language in this particular place. But then it doesn't stop you from adapting to the system, because in Europe it's like a one party system. They almost have the same thing running around the whole Europe. So whatever you're experiencing here may not be so different from what you're going to meet out there, but the only thing that may be different is the language. So you need to be open-minded to learning the language, the culture, eating the new food, because it's not going to be the ones you've always been eating and you can always get from your country. When you come back to Europe, you need to be open-minded, be resilient as well, and then be patient. Take down the pressure from family and financial pressure that comes from home, that you have to, you're abroad, you have to send money back home. You need to build your own life. You need to build, just like someone said, if you keep giving out of a half full cup, you are going to run dry as well. So it's not like you're being stingy, but you're going to be dragged down to the same level where the other people are, and then there's no one to help. So probably you need to get to a stage where you can actually give. Giving out of your lack, it's not good. Probably people would say that you're not a giver, but then you need to give out of abundance. If you give out of your lack, you're going to become like those who you are giving on to, you're giving back to. You need to build your asset and then give out of your own lack. So this is a bit of experience that I've had for the over 1 year that I've been here. You need to be open-minded, you need to be resilient, and then you need to have some patience to overcome all the challenges of adaptation.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Rolex. I think while Lola was speaking, she mentioned something like around what I could call understanding the context and understanding your expenses, understanding the statutory deductions, and then how much you're going to be left with at the end of the day by the time you receive your pay, salary, wages, whatever it's called. And then it will help you to plan yourself and all the realities. I think by the time you travel to Europe, is very good. You understand all the realities. I'd also agree with you that I understand the culture, what works. I understand that people over there can be very straightforward. At a point, you might be feeling that people are just being hostile. You ask somebody some question, say good morning, it says good morning, and no compliments. The many things that we do here is all like that. So things will be strange. So you cannot afford to rush yourself into trying to create impression. First of all, you have to save, you have to earn, find a way to earn. When you earn, you have to save. And then when you save, then before you spend. So I don't know. Lola, talking about this, we've talked about the adaptation. We can't talk about it enough. But what are, for as a migrant who just moves into Europe newly, what are the very areas to start with? Like we can talk about real estate and all that, but what are the basic areas that one could just start saving with? What are those areas? And if I travel to Europe, like somebody from Nigeria, what are the areas that I should just focus my attention on that I can easily just save?
Okay, so I think in the last when I spoke last, I talked about saving, I talked about investment, but I don't feel the most important thing when you first come to Germany, the first thing you should do is to build assets as a migrant. You need to, it requires a mindset shift. That's the first thing you should do. Yeah, you've left your country, you are now in another country. You know, you must stop seeing yourself as someone who only came to work here or to pay bills. You must start seeing yourself as someone who can build wealth. You know, you who can create stability, who can establish a legacy, because your background does not disqualify you. Because it is however you see yourself, that is the amount of effort you will put into, you know, making yourself a better person. Your starting point does not define your ending. And so with the right knowledge, discipline, and decisions, you can build something meaningful in Germany. So the first step would be shifting your mindset and opening your heart, opening your mind. I've spoken to a lot of people about saving, and they are like, no, does not work. Investment, they're like, no, you know, we've had so many experiences with MMM or whatever it is back home. And we, yeah, I understand where we are coming from, our background, but you need to be open-minded here. Whatever applied in wherever you're coming from, your country does not necessarily mean it applies here. So you have to be open to learning. You have to be open to meeting with the right people, with the right information, with the right knowledge, people that can help you get better. I think that is the first step. Then afterwards, when you meet with people like this with much financial knowledge, then they can be able to guide you properly on, you know, pertaining to your profile, your situation right now where you are, you know, if it is best to start saving little, or how much you can save or invest or whatever. But the most important thing is be open and mingle, mix with the right people with the right knowledge. Yeah.
For me, I think I
Maybe
have
I
a
could
question
add to
for
that
Lola.
very
I don't
quickly
know.
to the points that Lola has mentioned. Um, the first step always is that mindset, really, because if the mindset is not right, then no matter what one is telling you, it would never work. And it goes across every other thing in life. The people that you can work with, first and foremost, they need to be that, either same or very close level of thinking. And that mindset also is what really opens you up to opportunities. One very important thing is this, that I am also a wealth advisor. that I always talk to and advise people is before you build, you have to protect yourself first. Because what are you going to gain if you build or if you start building assets and you do not have optimal protection? In Nigeria or most other African countries, protection is not something that people think about. When they say protection, it's about having high fence, solid gates, wires across so that nobody can break in. But here we're talking about legal protection mostly,
Mm,
and which means how do you protect yourself as a person, your profession, your lifestyle, that in the case of an event that you are fully covered. And very practically, I am talking about having the right and optimal insurance protection. So this would be definitely the basic steps where you begin from, because your savings or your investment plan would not be sustainable if you do not have optimal protection. I give an example. If you have some kind of investment plan, whatsoever that might be, and you're planning to reach whatever goals, and you were to lose your job, for example, most times when a lot of expats or foreigners lose their jobs abroad, the reason for terminating their work contract is not justifiable. It's not justifiable. And Germany, you cannot just lay somebody off like that without justification. If you would lay someone off, there has to be, you know, um, there has to be justification. That's the best way to put it, especially if you're laying that person off after their probationary period. Once they're past probationary period, you need to justify why you're laying them off, right? Or you settle them, you know. And if none of this is happening, then the person who's been laid off has the right to protect their profession. If you do not have optimal insurance protection for that, you're finished. It's either you have to pay from your pocket, and that can be very costly, especially when you just lost your job. Another example could be you just got a private loan recently, and you maybe do not have insurance that would cover that loan in case you go broke or in case something happens. You lose your job or whatever happens, you still need to service that loan. The
mm.
example goes on and on and on. Or how about private liability insurance? I'm mentioning these specific things just so that we get practical. Germany is a country whereby if you destroy someone else's property, knowingly or unknowingly, nobody cares. You have to pay. It's the law. It's simple. There's no question of I beg, help me, blah blah blah. No. It's and the person who you destroyed it simply expects that you have the necessary insurance to protect you. So they don't even
Mm,
expect that you should be paying from your pocket. I've had
mm,
many cases, I've talked with friends, school, where they were living before, they simply relocated only after a couple of weeks to be called by the landlord that ABC was not working. The house got flooded. And they said, please call, give us your insurance number. Let's call your insurance. Because they know that the amount is so much, they don't even want to bother speaking with you. So again, the first step is that protection. A lot of us feel like we can go about life very safely and not get into trouble. No one wants you to get into trouble. But how safe can you be in a system that is the way it is this way? So it's that mindset that opens you up to understand the reality of where you are. And I mean, if you want to build wealth, you also have to think like the wealthy people. It's common practice for the wealthy people to have optimal protection. Their house goes on fire, they don't bother because it's fully covered. Their car gets spoiled, it's fully covered. They get sick, it's fully covered. You also have to be thinking in that direction. Of course, I'm not saying that you have all insurance because again, sometimes you may be over insured. Again, put it really simple, have optimal protection plan for yourself so that when you start building wealth, it's going to be sustainable.
Thank you so much, Michael. If I may just quickly come in, I don't know if you are aware. Presently, a Nigerian in the USA is having issues. I think by the name Michael Bernard. He went and cut down protected trees in Germany. I think between 2021 and 22, and now he's facing legal battles. All right, he's been asked to pay $1 million as fine for cutting down protected trees in the USA. So you can imagine whatever he has saved, this legal breach alone is going to wipe up everything. So when you are saying protect yourself, and then when we're talking about adaptation, it is because of things like this. You must know your boundaries. You must understand the context. You must understand the culture. I know what is there. In Nigeria, here, you can afford to carry a cutlass, cut any tree. Maybe in Germany or in the USA, if you do that, it's not just a tree for you. It might be your compound, but you're not allowed to cut it anyhow. So that's what is happening in the international space. Machi is in a very hot pepper soup right now as I speak.
Very hot pepper soup. Okay, I'd like to add something to that. So the other thing is, I think Lola mentioned it, but I just want to touch a bit on it. It's about budgeting. And the best way to do this budgeting is to have a deep financial or thorough financial analysis, because financial analysis exposes you to, or not exposed, lets you understand transparently how much am I earning, how much am I spending, what am I spending this thing on. You will find out that if you will do a simple analysis of your financial situation, you will discover that you're spending, in a lot of cases, money on unnecessary things. And this is where wealth building begins. Cut down unnecessary expenses. Do not buy stuff that you're not using. Do not have membership that you're not using. You know, don't default payment, because you default payment, the reminder that is coming with a fee, with a fine. These are unnecessary payments, and you are only defaulting payment because you are spending more than you're earning. Again, we couldn't cover everything here. If you are living in Germany and you really want to get practical about building wealth, about understanding, about starting from somewhere, definitely get in touch with us. Let's sit down, let's talk, let's consult you, and we will provide all this information 100% free of charge for you. You decide what you do with it at the end of the day. But first thing first, that you are properly informed. We're going to be coming to an end to the session. It's already 30 minutes. We are here in Bremen, the Lie and I. We are, let me say, making the awareness of wealth building and financial awareness, to expats and foreigners like ourselves, so that we're not just telling it only online, but that we're going from place to place, making this awareness to people. So maybe before we round up, maybe one more from Ebuka in Italy, and then from Lola, and then we call it an evening.
Yeah, thank you so much. I must say I've learned so much from this meeting, and from Lola as well, and also from you, Mike, and also the story that Michael had just shared with us now. The thing is, adaptation has so very great link to asset building. You have to adapt very well, and then before you can start building your asset. And just like Mike said, you have to understand your income, and then you have to, scrutinize very well how to spend your income and where your money is going and where your money shouldn't go. So I think I've learned a lot from that, what one should spend on and what one should not spend on. I really thank you all for having this meeting, and I hope that further meetings like this will enlighten the audience, our audience, or the public, to understand really, really well what asset building is and how to start building assets.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Ibuka. And yeah, I think my last word would just be that, so my message today is simple. Do not just live in Germany, build in Germany. Do not just earn in Germany, grow. And do not just survive here. Create structure. So learn the system, ask questions, make informed decisions, and take intentional steps toward building real assets. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, okay. To round up, the system will not wait for you. The system is running. You have to run and meet up with the system. And don't forget, you can't beat the system, like Kira Pese have said. It's properly structured. They don't play with the system, regardless of your talent or whatever it is. The system is stronger than whatever your compromises or whatever you want to think about it. And you've got to just bend to the system. The system will bend to you. Know the likely implication of any action, even investment and all of that. And very importantly, make sure you're properly protected by subscribing to the right insurances for your properties and anything going around. Just make sure, do proper risk assessment and be properly protected. This is just the best way to go about it, so that you don't find yourself in the Matthew Bernard situation. Thank you so much, everyone. This program today was brought to you courtesy of Settling. And don't forget, Settling is on Play Store. And you can just go there, download it, and sign up. Thank you. See you again next weekend. And bye for now. Thank you, everyone, for being part of this show. Thank you so much, Lola, for being here with us. Thanks.